Hello, my friends, it's your brother Hampton. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Hampton, and I want to talk about finding your purpose. It is a topic that seems to be on a lot of people's minds, especially during the new year, which is around the time that I'm filming this. And I can't tell you what your purpose is. I wish I could, but there's many people watching this of all different backgrounds and personality types, many different purposes. But I can give you a process with which you can begin to find the things that you might be meant to do. And I say things because there are probably multiple things you could do, and then there's a few that will probably be the most fulfilling to you. And the results, as you'll see, can come pretty immediately. You might not find it right away, but you can definitely get closer almost right away with this process that I'll talk about. But first, I'll tell you about myself. About 5 years ago, around this time is around the time I started hybrid calisthenics, which is one of the core parts, if not the core, it is the core part of what I do right now. And this was before I really had any kind of feedback or success with it, but I had begun the process of uploading videos and talking about fitness and why it felt such like the new year up to that point. Prior to that time had brought some anxiety for me. Ever since I had finished college, right? I was a little bit unsure what I was supposed to do. Now, I graduated with a degree. I was going to go into that field, but I was somewhat sidetracked with helping my family at the time, which was the right thing to do, but the anxiety seemed to grow after I fell off, or I went away from the established path, right? Which everyone does at some point. So I'm just trying to mention this because some people might resonate with this. But when you start in school, like let's say you're 13 and you're just going through school, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Then you go through high school and you're supposed to do that. And then depending on what country or culture you're in, you're supposed to go to college, right? That's part of the path, if you're able, of course. And then you study, you get higher education, and then you graduate and you get a job. That's just the path, right? And what I always found was like when I was on this path, that was part of my purpose, or I didn't really quite need to find out where I need to go afterwards, because right now, this is what I'm meant to do. And after that point, it's when it got a little bit hazier, right? It got a little bit hazier. It had been a couple of years, and I hadn't found any real like business, or certainly not financial success from hybrid, but it felt like something had clicked in me. It felt like a chord had been strummed as if I were a guitar or if I were an instrument that was being played. And the notes that made up that chord, looking back, were placed over months and maybe years of trying new things, is what placed those notes. And eventually they were strummed and this felt right. It felt like this is one of the things that I really want to do. And what I do now, if you're not completely familiar with me, I make fitness content, among other things. It is very stressful sometimes, and it can be hard sometimes, but I do consider myself lucky and blessed to be able to do it, and privileged to be able to do it, and it is a very fulfilling thing. So at the time, I didn't know how it would go, but it did feel right. So my goal is to try to help you get there or beyond, because there may be more things there. And I want to talk about how I came to that point. So this method that I've outlined, or I've begun to outline in my book, called experiential introspection, which is basically you try new things and you reflect. Because introspection, you can see there's different cultures and scientific studies that talk about things like introspection. It is important to reflect and build self-awareness and things like that. But what I found and why I added experiential to it is if we could just think our way to greatness, that would be great. But it's not something I'm able to do. I'm not sure about other people. So what I encourage people to do in the book is to try new things. And then after trying those things and giving them a fair shake, you can then reflect on them. And that's the experiential introspection thing. So this is essentially what we can begin to do while we're trying to find our purpose. So it's one way we can use this tool, this ability of experiential introspection. The book's not out yet, by the way, I'm still writing it. So essentially it's trying new things. And that's really what I've summarized. And people are like, I'm not sure what I like to do. I can't find my passion. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I say, well, try new things. And they say, well, I haven't tried anything I like. And like, if you're 16, 17, you may not have tried the thing that you'll like the most. But here's an important nuance to that I'm not always able to express in a short video or just a simple response or like an email message answer. And that is, it kind of gives the impression of like, well, I'm just gonna try different things. Like, okay, try cooking, nah. Try piano, nah. Try art, Yeah. So first of all, there's that impression that it gives, and okay, it's if you just imagine going through that, it can be kind of difficult to know exactly what you want to do if you just try it for like 5 minutes, because part of the joy that some people experience from that, it's part of the excitement and the love they have for that. I was like, oh man, I really do like art, is after diving in. So like you may already be very well experienced with this if you already found something that you like, which may or may not be your purpose. But sometimes you may not like something at first, but then you dive in and then you really fall in love with the process of improving and building it. So number one, you're not always giving it a fair shake by trying, even a few weeks, a few months, right? So it's hard to know if that thing is for you and if it's worth exploring further. But another point to that is that it doesn't quite demonstrate experiential introspection doing that, because you're just trying different things. It's kind of like you're shooting things at random. It's just like if I had like 100 paper cups overturned and there's a ping pong ball, and that ping pong ball is your purpose, right? I'm just like, okay, pick a cup. Nope, empty. Nope, empty. Nope, empty, until you finally find it. But it's not quite like that, right? So what you could do instead is if you try something like, starting a business, right? And that business is around selling pies, homemade pies, into local business. You set up a website and you do that. You might find a couple of things, right? And it's not just whether or not you specifically want to start a business selling pie. It's like, what about starting a business selling, landscaping services? It's not quite that. So what you can try is when you try things for a few months, you give them a fair shake. You're like, I think I might like this. And trying different things, you're like, this one's interesting. Let me pursue this a little bit. And it's like, it really didn't lead anywhere. But at first you liked it. You see the indicators, right? You try it, but you also, when you reflect upon that, you also learn aspects that get you closer. After you reflect and you think like, I like this, I don't like that. You learn aspects of the thing that you do eventually want. So an example from there is you like baking pies as a hobby, but keeping up with customer orders is really hard. And let's say like, it's hard to get marketing. It's, you finally got like 15 orders. That's great. Wow, it's hard to make the pies all the same. And wow, this person is allergic to this ingredient, this core ingredient that I use as part of my recipe. It's like, well, they also want me to list my ingredients, but it's my secret. It's my secret recipe. I can't just give it out, right? So things like that are all part of starting a business and selling pies. But you might find from that you might reflect upon things like, do I actually like running my own business? Or do I want to follow a more structured path? And both of those are completely fine. So like, there is definitely an inclination for people to think that part of the hero's journey is starting your own business, starting your own thing, when a lot of people really do thrive more just following a beaten path. And if you are someone who's like, if you're thinking of starting a business or someone has told you about that, and someone's like, well, your thought is like, well, I need a step-by-step plan telling me exactly what to do, then you may want to consider whether or not you actually want to start your own thing, or you want to follow someone else's thing. And that person can love you and take care of you, and you can take care of each other. So it's not whether or not you want to submit to someone else. It's just whether or not you want a little bit more predictability, or do you want the other things involved with starting your own business? So these are all things that you can reflect on. It's like, you might not like the pie aspect, but do you like the thing where you're starting your own thing? And you might not, or you might. Right? And that's something that I reflected upon. And I was like thinking on, even earlier today, there are many different things that I could do. And not to say that I'm multi-talented, but just most people have many things they could learn and do if they decided to put in the time. Right? And if I were to be something like an accountant or a lawyer, or even like software engineer, right? So it's not necessarily, I'm not talking about the money aspect of things, or even personal trainer, or like something very close to what I'm doing. I think those are all great jobs, but I like building towards something. I like having some forward momentum, more than just the money building up in my bank account and more than just learning in that field. I want to build towards something. And I think if I were to manage something, because like some people's jobs are basically management. You basically, if I'm a personal trainer, I'm managing someone's fitness, it's going to go up. If I'm managing their stock portfolio, I'm managing it, hopefully it goes up. And that's great, but it's like, there's a certain sense of repetition to that, but I want something where I can build. So it's just like, so instead of being a personal trainer, I might want to start a fitness company, which is what I did, right? And instead of being a mechanic, I might want to start a car repair company, right? And once again, this isn't necessarily like a lot of people who have started businesses or side hustles can tell you do stand. A lot of them do fail, and a lot of them don't really end up making more money than you would if you just worked for someone else for a while. So it's not just about money. It's about whether or not you like having the freedom, but also the accountability, the extra stress, but also for me, the sense of forward momentum. So that's something you can reflect on. So when you're trying new things, you're not just trying it for the sake of trying, but when you reflect upon that experience, sorry, I'm a little bit hoarse, you can reflect on the aspects that you like, the aspects you dislike, and why. And this is why I say that you can start to build something and use the results of this process of experiential introspection pretty much right away, because you can start reflecting on things you've tried pretty much right while watching this video, right? You can reflect upon watching this video, like, I like this part, it's a little bit slow, he rambles a little bit, right? But you might like, I like how it goes a little bit introspective. Maybe I'll go a little bit deeper and I'll watch another video. So that helps you find things you like and dislike, and you reflect on things you recently tried. It's like, I recently tried yoga. Not quite for me. Maybe I'll try Tai Chi. But what did I like about it? It's like, I like that it was gentle. I like that it was progressive. I like the culture of it. So it's kind of like we're all kind of, we're trying to see ourselves, right? We're in a dark room and we're feeling around like, okay, so I know where this is. I like this part, right? But I'm not quite sure about this yet. And we're just like putting together this lens through which we can better see ourselves. And that's a really beautiful, remarkable process that I hope people can like. I am drinking coffee today for the Coffee with Hampton podcast, but I don't always. Sometimes I drink tea and sometimes it's water. It's a little bit late, but I made this a little while ago. But through this process, we can start to begin building the notes that we have in ourselves. Like, a note, right, if we had to make it a little bit more defined, for myself, could be prefers forward momentum, prefers building things, prefers a little bit of freedom, even if it sacrifices a little bit of predictability. These are all notes that I was building within myself. And what I was doing prior to that moment 5 years ago, around that moment 5 years ago, was I was not only trying new things, but I was watching videos, reading books, reading articles about other people. So I was reading about new things. So I was like, this idea of, first of all, like building a foundation was, I could start a blog and I could potentially make a living off the ad revenue. Well, what does that involve? And I was looking into it. And I liked that, right? I didn't know at the time, but I liked the spirit of like building something. Not only that, but I also really liked the idea that I was building something that would help other people. So there's many different things you can exchange for money, but I like the idea of building something that people feel like, wow, that's awesome. How do you do this? I'm like, I spent like 2,000 hours on it. And they're like, this is amazing. This changed my life, right? And and hopefully for the better, right? And I really like that aspect. So when we start to build these notes, not only from trying, but from watching things, then we can eventually, there might be a moment of time where we're like, this thing. So not only we try new things, but you may get a moment of inspiration, either from a suggestion or either from trying the thing, where that thing feels really right. And for me, that was starting hybrid calisthenics. That is a purpose that I'm really thankful for right now. I don't know where it'll lead, but I'm very thankful for doing that right now. And through my accumulated experiences, when I started to do it, it just felt really right. There is a concept of whole body yes, right? So like there's different ways you can define it, but there's some people who say, I say yes with my heart, yes with my mind, the whole body, yes with my soul, everything feels right. So when you start to try things, reflect on them, and build and learn about yourself, and then you can start to build and collect those notes, and then eventually they might be strummed when you get closer to your purpose. You go, that might be the thing that I'm meant to do. That might be the thing that I really want to do, and I hope to do for the rest of my life. And for me, it was around the new year 5 years ago, but I didn't plan it to be the new year. I just remember it being the new year, and that's really when I started feeling this. I'm like, man, this feels really right. And I felt like I didn't have the New Year's anxiety that I had for a few years prior, even though this new thing that I tried really hadn't yielded any results yet. I don't even know if no one really had told me if I was good or bad at it yet. I just knew I was excited about the prospect. I really hope this video can help you find your purpose. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day and a beautiful year. Thanks for watching.